had to go back into myself and then engage in this revolutionary behavior of improving every single area of my life like that. And that produced an enormous amount of results in 4 weeks. Hi, my name is Claus, and this is the second lesson of how to achieve 10 times the results in a tenth of the time. This is really possible, and after watching these videos, you will think so too. You will be convinced. Go back and watch the previous video if you haven't already done it. Now we're going to talk about what that really is. Achieving a massive amount of results in a very short period of time is really taking the exponential growth curve and turning it into an explosion, because that's what it is. Exponential growth is taking 2 bacteria that then reproduces and becomes 4. And these 4 bacteria then reproduces and becomes 8, right? Like a population of humans also. Then these 8 become 16. It doubles all the time. Then it becomes 32. And pretty soon I have to spend a lot of time doubling every time. These 32 becomes 64. That will be like this, right? The 64 becomes 128. The 128 becomes 265. And the 2 becomes 512. And pretty soon we run out of board. That's the exponential growth. And the problem with this is that's also how you're going to achieve the success you want. It is so obvious to see how that works. You know, they did a study of businesses once where they looked into businesses that suddenly did this on the charts, right? They suddenly exploded into growth. And they say, what is happening there? What is going on there with these? Because we want to learn this so we can invest in the right businesses. And what they found was that all that this is the exponential growth curve, right? This is how it looks when you look it up on Google. You can see the exponential growth. It looks like a hockey stick because this looks small, right? And then suddenly it doubles to 800,000, 1.6 million, right? 3.2 million, then 6.4 million, right? It just shoots up there. So you have to describe this line here. Then all this doubling down here becomes like nothing because the curve has to be able to contain all this explosive growth. Hope that makes sense. The same thing goes for your life, right? You're working on each area, right, of your life. So let's say you're working on your financial life. It's over here in this category, right? And it goes better and better over time. You get some results, but at the same time, you're also working on your emotional life and you're on the inner resources, right? On your relationships, you're working on your body. But as you get better and better, these areas tend to influence each other. The more energy you get, the healthier you get, the more energy you have to make more money and make the right decisions, and the better your relationships get. The better your relationships get, the more resources you have, the more time, the more peace you have to actually build your financial life, right? And the better and so on and so forth, right? So it's like and then faster and faster, following the exponential growth curve. And at some point, it's like, hey, I'm successful because everything is easier now, right? It's so easy, and you can really. And that's really the reward of it, right? You don't necessarily get happier by being successful, but it's really much easier if you choose to be happy. You have less challenges, you could say, right? And it's just so much fun using that momentum you have in the exponential growth curve. So why are we talking about this, Claus? Well, because the secret to having explosive growth, this is the formula, you could say, right? We have time involved in the curve here. This is time, this axis here, right? This here is results. So as we go up here, these are the results. But what really bugs us about the exponential growth curve is time. So how do we shorten that? How do we get rid of that much time in the formula? That would be, 10 times faster. And the way to do that is to make sure that all these areas here, if you can increase each area, this is the secret, right? If you can say, okay, I'm going to, like we talked about in the last video, the lightning war, right? If I can take all my resources and all areas of resources like trains and tanks and planes and infantry, if I can take each area of influence resource within me, like the physical aspect, the emotional aspect, my financial aspect, and I can do better just by pure force. By pure force, right? Just pure effort, like just amping up, just doing what you know and doing it 25% better. Anyone can do that. If we're passionate enough, if we're excited enough, we can do that with our bodies just by the intent of it, right? We can do that with our relationships and improve those 25% just by showing up differently. We can improve our finances just by showing up differently, by putting much more energy into it, and by doing a few things I'm going to suggest to you in a couple of videos here. So we can do that by just rising up, right? Agree? If it's important enough, wouldn't you say? If I can say, okay, I'm going to give you 1 million in your local currency, right? In 4 weeks, if I can have you be at your best, right? The super version of you. And I'm not talking about a better version of you. I'm not talking about, yeah, now I'm really making an effort. I'm talking about the super version of you. If you can give that to me, if you can show me that, then I will give you whatever you want in 4 weeks. Could you do it? Could you amp up like crazy? Could you rise, right? Of course you could. Of course, it just has to be important enough, right? What makes it important enough? Whatever it is that you think you will get after you do this. So if you do 25% on all areas here, this is the secret, then the 25%, just to make it mathematically very easy to understand, let's say you could double, just to keep it up here. Let's say you could double, right? So instead of going 25, let's say you could double the amount of impact you had on all areas of your life. So this here, this area, as we talked about before, the physical area would be twice as good. Well, that will influence on your relationships and make it even easier to make those work out twice as well. Wouldn't you agree? If you show up with the right amount of energy and the right amount of happiness and physical, emotional energy. So if you can amp up this, you can easily amp up this even more than double, and even more than double in the next area. This area here, your emotional life, if you're twice as happy or twice as enthusiastic and passionate and interested, then the whole brain lights up. You become more intelligent. You become more resourceful. How will that influence every other part of your life? Which again then influences your emotional life, right? The result, the smiles you get from other people, the results you get when you go to work and you do the cold calling or you do the thing and you talk to your boss and you discuss, how can I improve my salary by 25%, or how can I double it? You know, all of these things that goes on like wham in your life, right, will influence each other. This is the lightning wall. By taking each area, and you know what coaches told me? I did this intuitively to some degree when I was building my results. And what happened was I had coaches, because that's part of it, right? If you want to amp up every area of life, you might as well get a coach if you can afford it at the stage you're at. And they would all tell me, hey, whoa, take it easy now, Claus. You need to take one thing at a time. Get one result at a time. You know, just focus on your body, get some results, get some really good habits working for you. Then you got that, then you can turn away. And I was just like, ugh, I don't want to just focus on, this. This is not, like we talked about in the previous video, this result is just too whiny, it's just too little. Like this, right? So I wasn't motivated. So I had to go back into myself and then engage in this revolutionary behavior of improving every single area of my life like that. Amping up just by pure effort. And that produced an enormous amount of results in 4 weeks. As little as 4 weeks, right? What that did to my psyche was just, you can't trade that for money. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video, is that all the improvement in all of these areas of my life just made it possible to do this lightning war on the one result I wanted, because all these areas point to one thing I wanted, like increase my income or do whatever. They all supported each other, like we talked about, right? I had instant momentum from day one. And what that did to my momentum in the future was just extraordinary and something nobody talked about. So, looking forward to seeing you in the next video.